Hey there, welcome to the DFS build. This is not a DFS episode, though. I'm Kevin Roberts, going to get ready here to look over some waiver wire pickups for standard leagues, operating from a 10-team look here as far as like what players are out there still and what percentage they're available on Sleeper. You can translate that to ESPN or Yahoo, however you want. The point is, if they're available in the league that I'm looking at here, there's a decent chance they're available in your league. This is also my home league that you're looking at. You can see my other leagues on the side. Not a great week 2 for me, but at least I got off to a good start in week 1. So hopefully we can bounce back in week 3. The point here is to just show you what guys are out there who I think is a good pickup for right now or going forward. So just quick look at my team here, projected to get destroyed in week 3 against one of my buddies. So it feels great, no doubt about it. Team is pretty good overall. The damaging thing here is Marvin Harrison with a weak projection. For sure. One guy or a couple guys that I just picked up just to improve my depth a little bit. Alec Aomanor for the Titans. I could be butchering that name, but he is a really good pickup just because he's not rostered in a lot of leagues. Right now he's available in about 70% of leagues. He is going to be a hot pickup for sure on the waiver wire. And, that's the whole point of this video is to kind of point you to people who could be good pickups for week 3 and also beyond. So I don't think he has the greatest matchup against the Colts in week 3, and he's got the Texans after that. But I do think it gets a little bit better. The point is, though, he's out there in a lot of leagues. He's playing over 70% of the snaps. He's had 6+ targets in each of his first 2 games, and he did score a touchdown last week. So he is potentially going to just be getting, we're going to be looking at the snowball effect a little bit here, where he's just going to get more and more work. And the Titans don't really project to be very good. So as we get going, as they play from behind, and even when they're losing games, they're not going to, take snaps away from a rookie who's showing promise. So if it gets to middle, late of the season, who's going to see less work between him or Calvin Ridley? It's going to be Ridley. So I like him a lot as a stash at a minimum, but he actually projects well going into week 3. And just because I think this is the kind of guy that could be a little bit matchup proof, just because there's going to be volume for a team that is probably going to be losing or at least trailing in a good amount of games. So I like him as a stash for right now. Not a must play for week 3, but a really good pickup and he's available in most leagues. Another guy that's a little bit interesting is Blake Corum. This is a stash. So I'm just talking about these guys right now because I'm kind of just personally cleaning up my bench, just getting rid of a couple of guys that I don't feel amazing about. Like last week, I picked up Michael Mayer just as a pivot in case Brock Bowers was out on Monday. So I dropped Mayer. I don't need him. Picked up Corum instead. Corum went from 17% of the snaps in week 1 to 30% in week 2. And Kyren Williams has been bad. So if Kyren Williams is going to keep struggling, even though they paid him and they've liked him and fed him the rock in the past, they would be insane to not give Corum more work. So whether that actually translates to Corum like getting, the full, workload or not, that remains to be seen. But he's getting more work. He scored a touchdown last week, super efficient, 8.8 yards per carry. So that is a guy that I do like to stash. I don't know if he's going to be a major priority above some other guys. I'll mention, like for one, Jordan Mason. Like he is not available in a lot of leagues, but that is like the first guy I'd be looking at to go get at running back right now in case he is. Like if he's out there, you want Jordan Mason. Aaron Jones is injured. J.J. McCarthy's out. So like Mason is going to be fed the ball like crazy. He has not been good through 2 weeks, no doubt about it. Not really the best receiver in the world, but he's going to be looking at major volume because the Vikings, like Carson Wentz is coming in. Like obviously Wentz could excel in a Kevin O'Connell system. That's possible. But the more likely situation, logically speaking, is for O'Connell to lean more on the ground game. In theory, that would mean Jordan Mason gets a ton of touches and possibly some touchdowns and stuff. So I don't think he's going to be out there in a lot of leagues. But first, go look at Mason. And if he's not there, we're looking at just stashes at running back for the most part. All right, let's go look at who's actually out there and not just look at my team forever. So at quarterback, it's kind of bleak, like for sure. Depends what you're, depends on your league, depends who's out there. You got Geno Smith here. Pretty sure he's available in a good amount of leagues. Yeah, 70% or more of leagues. He was very bad in week 2, very good in week 1. Decent in week 1, 18 fantasy points. I don't love his matchups coming up. Commanders, Bears, Colts, Titans. Like that is a bad stretch in my opinion. He does have weapons. He did look okay in week 1, so he could bounce back. Not the guy I'm looking at here. CJ Stroud, Houston's offense, you would think with the talent they have eventually they'll get going. The problem with him here is he does have some difficult matchups ahead of him. He's on a bye in week 6, so you'd be looking at another option anyways. And the reason why I'm going over quarterback, I'm going over every position, but the reason why quarterbacks is pretty important because like 5 quarterbacks have gotten hurt, namely Joe Burrow. So you certainly could have been relying on Joe Burrow, and now you need another option, right? So hopefully we can point you to 1 or 2 that you could look at and that are actually out there for you. But then there's 4 other guys who got banged up too. So Justin Fields was a hot pickup. I loved him going into the season. Amazing smash play in week 1. And immediately I was like, he was my QB1 for the entire going into drafts and everything. Like I was pounding the table for him all summer. And of course he got hurt. So it is just a concussion. He could play. So if you have Fields, maybe you're okay. But you might need a stopgap, like a 1 or 2 week replacement if that's the case. I don't think Stroud is it. I think Stroud's a big name. I think he's got a lot of talent around him, but he doesn't have like Jaguars are a decent matchup. I think he could be okay in week 3, and you would imagine eventually the Texans offense would have a spike week. So I think he's okay for this week. It's just not a lot of passing volume, 27 attempts in week 1. Like that's his ceiling so far this year. You get taking a lot of sacks. Their offensive line has not been good. They're just not really getting it done. So he feels a little risky, but if you're going between him and Geno Smith, I would definitely play him over Geno this week. Jake Browning, if you had Joe Burrow, I think he's an easy pivot. The problem is the Vikings on the road. That's not good. The Broncos up next on the road. The Lions, who seem reinvigorated, that's not good. The good thing, though, is Browning is going to be looking at a lot of volume. The Bengals defense remains bad. Browning has been serviceable in the past. Like he has put up solid numbers, like 20 fantasy points in standard leagues last week. If we go back and look at 2023, actually. Down the stretch here, he had a lot of good games, 26, 24, 19, 21, 19. So he can produce. So I do like Jake Browning a lot. His roster ownership is not popping right now just because – he's not 0% rostered. We know that. But it's just not popping because he's just very low owned. So he should be available in a lot of leagues across all site formats. So I do like him a lot. He's got Jamar Chase, he's got T. Higgins, he's got Chase Brown, he's got a decent Rolodex of tight ends. So that combined with his experience and production and the fact that the Bengals defense remains bad makes him a really, really good pickup. So I do understand if you don't really feel amazing about playing him against the Vikings on the road or Broncos in the next week. But I think based off of volume, Browning is a really, really good pickup and a solid play this week. Michael Penix, good in week 1, really good in week 1, really bad in week 2. So this is just what we're going to get with Penix and some of these younger guys. Available in over 50% of leagues, so he's out there. I think a shootout with the Panthers is in the cards in week 3, so I do like him a lot for this week specifically. Not sure I love him in week 4, and then, of course, you have to figure out quarterback again with them on bye already in the next week after that. So I think Penix, like Stroud, is an okay pickup to put a little Band-Aid on your situation for this week. But, in long term beyond like the next couple of weeks after that, I think he's a fine option to roster. Just don't expect him to save you over the next 3 weeks necessarily. Tua Tagovailoa is one of my favorite pickups. Short week, at Buffalo, Miami is falling apart. So you would think like that sounds stupid, but the reality is he did bounce back in week 2, and they are going to be playing from behind in the Bills game. They're going to be big underdogs, and their season's on the line. So I expect him to remain completely motivated. Then after that, like the Jets defense just has not been good. So if they're just bad at home in South Beach, like an absolute must win, probably at 0-3 at that point, I would imagine he'll be totally good unless he gets concussed again. And then at Carolina, that's a shootout. Chargers have been giving up a little bit of production. So Tua's got a nice road ahead of him, and specifically this week on a short week, I think he's going to show out a little bit, provided he doesn't get hurt. So those are the main guys I'm looking at. Everybody down here, I mean, there are a lot of guys available in this league in particular, but like Trevor Lawrence, available in 60% of leagues. He's been a little bit inconsistent overall in the past couple of years, of course, this year too. Russell Wilson had a major spike last week. I'm not really going to be trusting that. I would be personally for this week and a little bit beyond, I'd be looking at Jake Browning, Michael Penix, and Tua personally. All right, so at running back, Ramondre Stevenson, this could be fool's gold. In this league in particular, he is projecting as the best pickup. I don't really believe it. He is getting 65% of snaps, but he's still sharing the rock with Travion Henderson. If he's going to get this type of volume, I think he's worth picking up. I just don't think he's going to be available in a ton of leagues, and I don't think he's actually going to be a super reliable source of fantasy production. So not a lot at running back. I mentioned Blake Corum before. I think he is a good pickup. Woody Marks got a little bit more work in week 2. Don't have his official snap count here. The work is not really enough for me to jump on him just yet. And also Nick Chubb scored a touchdown, looked pretty decent 2 weeks in a row, really. He struggled early in yesterday's game, but he got it going a little bit towards the end. So I just don't see that there's enough meat on the bone for Woody Marks to really do much. If you have the roster space, because Chubb is like 30 years old and has an injury history, I think, and like we don't even know if Joe Mixon's going to play this year. All those things considered, if you have the roster space and can just slide Woody Marks on your bench, I think that is a solid step. All right, so not a lot to like at running back after that, especially in this league. It drops off considerably. So, you can pick up Dylan Sampson, but with Quinshon Judkins being back and Jerome Ford and stuff, I just don't really love it. So running back is, as you would expect, bleak. Not a lot of injuries to benefit from at running back. I already mentioned Jordan Mason. He's the big one. If he's available, go pick him up immediately. Drop a lot of FOB on him. I do think that's a really good pickup for the short and long term, because Aaron Jones' hamstring issue at age 30, like if you're a Packers fan like I am, you know what that's all about. He has always dealt with these soft tissue issues, and they're already splitting the work. Like Jordan Mason has been taking over as lead back, and Aaron Jones is being used more as like the secondary guy and like more as a receiver. So this was already a thing that people were starting to project, like Mason taking over, and we're seeing it. We're living it right now. So go get Mason if he's there. Corum is an okay stash. Otherwise. All right, so wide receiver Kelvin Austin, good in week 1, bad in week 2, just a little bit too volatile for me. Good projection coming here against the Patriots, which, by the way, Patriots pass defense has been bad, so I actually don't mind Kelvin Austin as a week 3 flyer. But also Kelvin Austin tipped a ball that got intercepted. So is he in Aaron Rodgers' doghouse now? Probably. So I'd definitely be a little bit concerned about that. Hunter Renfrow, not really involved in week 1, but majorly involved in week 2. 9 targets, 7 catches, 2 touchdowns. I really liked him as a DFS sleeper in week 1, and he played enough and got the ball enough to potentially hit. He had 3 fantasy points, and then in week 2, he absolutely smashes. So, of course, right? Super annoying, but at the same time, if he's going to have this type of role with the Panthers team that is not very good and probably going to be playing from behind a lot, I am interested a little bit. I think he's still dicey because you do have Ted McMillan there. You do have Xavier Legette. You still do have Chuba Hubbard. So, is he always going to get 9 targets or even 6 targets? No. So he is risky, but the production speaks for itself, and he's got some good matchups coming up. Atlanta, New England, Miami, Dallas, Jets. It all looks pretty good. They should be probably trailing in a good amount of those games, and they'll be throwing a lot. So I think he looks pretty good. Somebody I would like above him and above any of these other guys, though, is going to be Cedric Tillman. Matchup with the Packers stinks, but I think right away in week 3 and going forward, Lions, Vikings, Steelers, all these spots are either semi-advantageous, or there could be a volume-based situation where the Browns are just losing and they have to throw, and then he can get garbage points, or just because of the way the game script is going, he could get work. So that's kind of been the case in the first 2 games. They lost, they were trailing. He's had 7+ targets in both games. He scored a touchdown in both games. I don't think he necessarily has to be a touchdown-dependent guy. So far, that's kind of been the case. But I think the volume and the game flow is good enough that he looks like a really, really good pickup. Does not project the best this week because the Packers have been very good defensively. But I would expect Green Bay to be winning this game. I would expect Cleveland to be throwing a lot. And I would expect him to be getting a lot of the balls his way. I would expect Green Bay to take out Jerry Jeudy and try to limit the tight ends and, of course, stop the running game. So while I don't think the Browns as a whole are a great offense to target in this spot, I do think Tillman is a really nice pickup for week 3. I don't want to do the Diami Brown dance. He's been okay, okay week 1, really good last week. Now, if Brian Thomas Jr., who is now questionable with a wrist issue, and him and the head coach are kind of butting heads all of a sudden, if he's out, Diami Brown is suddenly a very, very interesting pickup. So if you have Brian Thomas Jr., or if you're kind of projecting him to miss a game or something, I think Brown then becomes a very, very good pickup. So I would, if you have the roster space to take that kind of chance, he is a decent stash for sure. Romeo Doubs, just because the Packers have a ton of injuries, playing over 70% of the snaps. He is a red zone threat. He's been just okay to this point, but because they're banged up, they just lost Jaden Reed to a broken collarbone, I believe. And they were banged up a little bit before that. Christian Watson on the PUP list. So Doubs looks pretty good here. I don't mind picking him up and playing him against Cleveland at all. The Ravens just dropped a ton of points on them, so they definitely can find success in that matchup. Dontayvion Wicks kind of in the same breath as Romeo Doubs. I think Packers receivers in general are going to be a little bit erratic, a little bit inconsistent, but he did see more work, more snaps, and more targets last week, so I would not be that shocked at all to see him pop off. I think I ranked Doubs over Wicks right now, but I think long-term Wicks is a little bit more compelling. I think he has a higher ceiling. Thornton got a little bit more involved yesterday, or at least early on. 1 catch for 20 yards, 4 targets. I don't think that is a consistent option. I love the talent. I think he is a long-term pickup, more of a dynasty asset, but not somebody we should be feeling amazing about right now for redraft leagues. Kayshon Boutte, 8 targets week 1, 1 target last week, and of course on that 1 target he got a touchdown. The Patriots are just super unreliable. Like Hunter Henry was really involved in week 1, and he did nothing in week 2. I don't really want to do it. I think some of these guys that I'm mentioning here, they're fine to pick up and stash if you have the room, but nobody else really stands out. I think if I was going to target anybody, it'd be first Cedric Tillman, and then if I have the space and I'm feeling good about it, I think Kelvin Austin and Renfro are okay pickups here. At tight end, Dalton Schultz, Hunter Henry, all these guys are just the same. Like, none of these guys feel amazing. Dalton Schultz did get, a little bit of production in the game last night, but nothing great. He's just obviously super, super behind Nico Collins in the pecking order, and they have these rookies that they would want to get more involved. Just the Houston passing offense is just really, really tough to trust right now. No other tight ends here look really good, but Zach Ertz is the one I'd be looking at. I'm a little surprised how available he is. Almost 50% availability. This is a 10-team league, so if you're in a shallower league, he'd be even more available. I would imagine in 12-team leagues, that's not going to be the case, especially full point PPR, especially even more so tight end premium. But he's been really good in the first 2 games. 90% of snaps last week, 18 fantasy points. He's been more touchdown dependent this year than we would expect him to be. So I would expect that to regress a little bit, but the role is still there. 5+ targets in 2 straight games, 6 catches last week. And the matchups coming ahead are not amazing, but I think his role is good enough to the point where I don't mind. I mean, I love him as a pickup. He is the tight end pickup for me right now, and nobody else really stands out as a clear-cut play. Let's look at defense real quick. Buccaneers are an interesting defense to pick up if Justin Fields does not play. I don't really think I'd want to use them if he is in. They've looked pretty good in the first 2 games. I don't know, how much we can judge them based off of facing the Falcons and the Texans, 2 offenses that are at best inconsistent so far. But the matchup without Fields would look good against Tyrod Taylor. Minnesota Vikings against the Bengals with Jake Browning. If you want to leverage that Browning conversation, you can certainly play Minnesota. They are a very good defense. The only question is, how much does their offense hurt them? So if Carson Wentz comes in and helps their offense, then that could provide a significant lift. We also know KC is a pretty good defense. Really good defense. They're supposed to be. They have not been very good because they faced 2 good offenses here in the first 2 weeks. They're 0-2, must-win game for them on the road against the Giants. I would imagine a massive bounce back for them across the board. So I do like them a lot. Their ownership is very, very low, so you should be able to get them in most leagues. The Colts defense has been pretty good. Took a step back last week against the Broncos, who are pretty good as well. Against the Titans and Cam Ward, I would think they're a solid streaming option this week as well. So those are the ones I'd be mostly looking at. Vikings and KC, with KC pulling in front for me personally. A kicker, they kind of all blend together for sure. It's just that's how it is with kicker. Brandon McManus against the Browns, that looks pretty good. He's been rock solid, 9+ fantasy points in 2 straight games. Will Reichard, he's been solid too. I think no J.J. McCarthy probably helps this offense. He's been really bad in 7 of 8 quarters. So I know it's Carson Wentz. He's ancient. He hasn't been really good in the last couple of years, but he's also not been in like a really good setting like this with Kevin O'Connell and a good system with Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson and stuff. So like I think the Minnesota offense could see a jump. And by the way, they face the Bengals, who are like the worst defense. So I think he looks really good. He's probably the main kicker I'd be looking at. I don't always want to go just off of projections either, but these guys are all like the same. They're all coming in with 9-point fantasy projections. So he is the one that I would be looking at the most, and he's available in 85% of the leagues. So he looks really, really good. Fairbairn, totally solid. We know Houston offense is not great, but we also know that they move the ball enough and stall out. So 5 field goal attempts across the first 2 games. Good matchup against the Jaguars. He looks good as well. Still ranking behind Reichard, but he looks rock solid. Story similar with the Raiders. They're going to get a lot of field goals. Daniel Carlson, rock solid kicker against the Commanders. I would be leaning very much Washington in that game. But they do have Jaden Daniels dealing with a knee injury, so perhaps that doesn't go exactly how we expect. Carlson is a little bit more active than usual. All right, that's going to do it for this waiver wire breakdown. This does not exactly reflect like every possible waiver wire option that is solid that is out there. I wanted to give more of a realistic look at live percentages in an active league and just kind of have that just show you in real time, oh, these guys are literally available right now. These are the percentages, and this is probably what you can expect in more of a home league. If you're in a really competitive league, I don't think you really need a waiver wire breakdown. I think if you are in an 8 or 10, maybe a 12-team league, this is more beneficial for you, and hopefully that is the case. In fact, let me know in the comments, say, oh, this is really a waste of time, or hey, this is useful. Let's do this again next week. And if I get enough feedback and it was something that you guys found helpful, I'll gladly do more breakdowns just like this and walk you through my leagues. I do a lot of dynasty leagues personally, but I still do redraft. I still really enjoy it, and hopefully I'm helping you out a little bit when I do this kind of content. All right, that does it for me. If this video did help you in any way, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. We do mostly DFS, but I do also like to do season-long content going into the season, and if it's something you guys want to see, I would love to continue it going through the season too, whether it be waiver wire or start set, like whatever. Drop in the comments what other kind of content you want to see for season long or whatever the case. But we do mostly do DFS, NFL DFS, MLB DFS, and NBA DFS when it is in season. You can also hit up our Discord linked at the bottom of the description here. And we do give out picks for most of the sports, MMA DFS as well. WNBA DFS, even though I hate it, I don't really want to. I don't like it, but we still give out advice for it. So if you want help in any of those areas, come check us out in Discord. And of course, below on the ticker, if you're interested in sign up on Sleeper, you get a 100% match on your first time deposit. Just use our code BUILD to tap into that. All right, thanks for watching and good luck.